has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
Back in, Adam Joe here for Scotty. Now, we were talking about the Rams and what they're capable of come the postseason, Joe, and obviously I think we're in agreement that they've got potential. Can certainly make a run here. But I thought they were going to make a run last year. Quite frankly, didn't end up happening. But you said it off the air, which is coach. The coach and quarterback. If you have the tandem, then you've got a ceiling. And so, how do you feel about the Rams as it compares to the rest of the NFC?
I feel like they're a dangerous team. I think the Rams are a team you don't necessarily want to see because I think they're a team that's playing with house money. And those are always the teams that you don't want to play in the playoffs. I think the Broncos are kind of like that. Nobody thought the Broncos would be in there. Broncos, can show up on defense. Another team that can create turnovers. Sean Payton, a very seasoned head coach. Now you have a green quarterback in Bo Nix. But look, you set up Bo Nix for success. And I have to say, I will take the L on this. Coming into this year, I was not enamored of Bo Nix. In the first couple of weeks, I looked like I was right. And then Bo Nix really took off because they simplified the offense for him, took the ball out of his hands until he got really comfortable. And then you started to see him make some big throws. Even this game on Saturday, he made some really big throws and some big moments. Was he perfect? No, he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to take his lumps. But I think, whenever you're looking at the dangerous teams, it's the ones that weren't supposed to be there, kind of like Dante from Clerks. That's what you're looking at. So it's teams like the Commanders, teams like the Rams. Those are the ones you don't want to see. To a certain extent, too, the Chargers are kind of like that because that, Jim Harbaugh is going to have this team prepared. That winning is everything to a Harbaugh. It's a very competitive place. God knows what games and, during Thanksgiving are like around their house, just sitting around, just playing taboo. It's a very vicious situation for that Harbaugh family, I imagine. Very competitive group. Those are the teams that scare you the most. The teams that are playing with house money. The teams that have pressure on them sometimes fold under that pressure. So it's a really good group that we have this year in the playoffs. I think you're looking at some of the teams that might be weaker too. The Houston Texans, to me, have been a team all year that just have never gotten going for whatever reason. Nico Collins missed a significant period of time. You had the Stephon Diggs off-season signing. That really didn't work out. Then the injury happens to him. Tank Dell, terrible injury a few weeks ago. So it's not just the injuries, though. It just seemed like a team that all of a sudden last year was what? Dangerous. Why? Because nobody expected them to be there. So they were playing loose. This year they had expectations. And expectations, especially for a very young team, can be tough. It's something that I thought, this year the Packers might struggle with. And at times they did, but they seem to be a team that's righted the ship. So if you're looking for a team there on the AFC side, it's the Texans right now. They feel like they have the least amount of momentum going in. They just got their butts handed to them by the Ravens on Christmas. And I think that's the team that you would not be shocked to see one and done in the playoffs. How about you? Do you think that the Texans are the team that you circled to that maybe just isn't supposed to be there and you wish maybe that the Cincinnati Bengals were instead?
Oh, I love, first of all, the Dante and Clerks reference. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Look, I haven't trusted the Texans all year long. In many ways, and they're not the same. One's a playoff team, one's not. But in many ways, I've treated the Texans and the Cardinals the same way. Just teams that you just look at them and you watch them week to week, and it's like, I can't trust you. I can't. The Cardinals I thought were totally fraudulent, and and it proved it, did it to themselves down the stretch. And, the Texans' issue in that division is there just wasn't a team that was good enough to overtake them. And so by default, they wind up winning the division. But yeah, I don't think that it worries me a little bit. We were talking earlier about, young quarterbacks in this league and ceilings and all of that stuff. And don't get me wrong. I think CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback for a long time in this league. That said, the degree to which that he has regressed this year with good talent around him, and I know there's injury issues now, but at one point in time, he had Nico Collins, Steph Diggs, and Tank Dell, and still didn't look good. Didn't look as good as he did as a rookie last year when he had much less around him. So that, to me, is concerning about Stroud going forward. So, yeah, if they're not one and done, it would surprise me.
Adam, you mentioned Kyler Murray too. I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts on this because I was talking on my show about this after the game, which was watching Kyler Murray's body language in games is infuriating to me. I am a youth football coach, and I can tell you that body language would get you sent to the bench more often than not. Kyler Murray strikes me as a guy who's really good at what he does, but he doesn't love what he does. And it feels like leadership, quarterback play, emotion is infectious. If you watch, say, Jaden Daniels play, right? Jaden Daniels plays and it seems to just elevate everybody's spirits around him, right? Things aren't going away. He finds a way to make plays. Even if he doesn't, it's a different vibe. It's a different feeling, right? And I understand winning is always good and everybody's happy when they're winning. But Kyler Murray strikes me as a guy who just doesn't want to be there. And you look at his body language, you look at him in the huddle, you look at him during these games, and he is blessed with incredible talent. He's got certainly great athleticism, speed, he's got good arm talent. He's got all the makings. Does he have size? No, but he's been able to overcome that and become an NFL quarterback. Is Kyler Murray a guy who just needs a change of scenery, or is Kyler Murray just a guy who is good at what he does, but has no passion for it? Because that's what it comes off to me as somebody watching him now for the last couple of years. I don't think that's a guy you can win with. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, or is Kyler Murray just a guy, right? You know, is he a jag? And I don't think I would go that far because I do think he's talented. I think he's flashed enough of it in his career, although I worry about the mobility going forward, obviously, because it just feels like all of these guys that are that type, stylistically, that type of quarterback are just that one big hit away, right? I mean, how many careers have we seen impacted by that? And you mentioned Lamar Jackson earlier. I constantly worry about Lamar taking that one knee-shattering injury that all of a sudden he's just never the same dude again. So that does worry me for sure. But with Kyler Murray, I don't know. I think he's in a bad situation. And what I mean by that is the coaching, offensive coordinator. I don't think it's set up well around him, or it's an indictment of him. Either I'm wrong about that and it's an indictment of him, or he still has the potential because Lord knows he has the weapons, and it's the coaching. Because the thing that I talk about this on SportsGrid all the time because I'm on a lot of Sunday afternoons during the 4 o'clock Eastern window and Cardinals games are on. And it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts watching the game planning in these contests when they'll go an entire half with like 2 targets toward Trey McBride. And I will be screaming at the computer, at my television, at my phone, whatever it is. Like, how are you not involving this guy? He is so clearly your best offensive weapon. Why is Marvin Harrison Jr. such a non-factor
don't get
this
me
year?
started there.
Why
was there a more can't-miss guy than Marvin Harrison
the season
Jr.?
that Malik Neighbors is having? Like, what are we doing?
Because you know why, Adam?
Like,
because they have him running
Kyler.
2 routes. That's why. Because he runs 2 routes.
Kyler.
That's what's so frustrating is you have a guy who might be, Marvin Harrison looked like the most ready-made NFL talent, right? He's got the pedigree, he's got the experience, played at the high level of college, Ohio State wide receiver university, right? And one of the best, most polished route runners I've ever seen coming out of college. And he runs 2 routes constantly. Like, I just don't understand what's going on. If you look at the tree, you look at the breakdown, like, Matt Harmon, who does the reception perception stuff, brilliant guy over at Yahoo, breaks all that stuff down, and you look at it, you're like, what are they doing here with this guy? And then Kyler Murray says, well, it's not my job to get into football. I disagree, Kyler. I think it is your job to get into football. Adam, like, don't you think that's how you play quarterback?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So again, I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's Murray. I don't know who to blame. I would like to know, Joe, who to blame, because I feel like the Cardinals are a team where there should be some real potential there. Not a team that even when they were leading that putrid division, that I never for one day took seriously this year.
Agreed.
So I don't know.
I did not either, and I thought they were a paper tiger too, so we're in agreement there.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I just looking up the score right here. Here's what I need to share with you. The Celtics. Remember I told you I had Toronto plus 17.5? Celtics are about to win 125-71. What's the math on that? Yeah, 54? 54?
the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion, each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with me, the Joe Pisapia, and we are looking at the NFL from a range of angles here. And we were talking about the Lions and Niners earlier. Of course, their game last night with respect to Campbell going out, playing everyone, didn't have to, game didn't matter. Well, we're going to have a whole lot of games that don't matter coming up here in Week 18. Remember, no Thursday, no Monday. It's Saturday, Sunday to even things up here come the postseason. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a couple of fun-filled days of football. It's okay. You got college football bowl games and the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. We have football this week. We can wait, believe it or not, for the NFL to resume on Saturday. I think deep within ourselves, we can handle it. We're going to try. But if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to have to wait, like really wait, because the Chiefs product that you're going to get on the field coming up here in Week 18, not representative of what you can expect going forward in a matter of weeks. It's going to be a bit here because Kansas City is playing at Denver. And this game, meaningful to the Broncos. Remember, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Dolphins, they're all trying to work their way into that seventh and final spot in the AFC when it comes to the playoffs. But Chiefs, they may take their second loss. Maybe if they were sitting at 16-0 right now, we might actually see Patrick Mahomes. But at 15-1, number one overall seed locked up, completely, truly, in every way imaginable, meaningless game, you're not going to see Mahomes. Carson Wentz and company, and who knows, like Kelsey may not play. I don't know what all of this is going to look like just yet, but a guy who could tip his hand just a little is the head coach, Andy Reid.
Well, yeah, when I first became a head coach and first time I had a chance to get in the playoffs, I've learned some things since then. I know that you've got to keep yourself relative with practices and make sure that you stay sharp, and you don't want to get too far away from it in the playoffs because, everything gets a little bit faster in the playoffs every level that you go up. So you've got to make sure that and it's single elimination. You have to make sure your game's at the peak each time you play.
You know, Joe, I'm in agreement with everything that Andy Reid just said if I am the Los Angeles Chargers. But I'm not. I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, and I've won back-to-back Super Bowls. I know what it takes. I'm good. rest guys, bubble wrap guys. Nothing about week 18 matters. You get the bye week, go to Cancun, have some practices after your long weekend, do whatever it is you're going to do, and then watch TV during wild card weekend and be ready for the divisional round. I'm a Patriots fan. You're a Patriots fan. We saw how this worked under Belichick and Brady for 20 years. Didn't always win the Super Bowl, but it was all but guaranteed that they'd get to the AFC title game. And the reason for that is they knew what this time of year meant.
Yeah, and there's an extra week you have to contend for too, right? That Bill Belichick and those teams did not. So it is a marathon of a season now in the NFL. So the good news is at least you can take these last couple of weeks with Hollywood Brown and Isaiah Pacheco and some healthy guys. And you have Hopkins working a little bit better now. Now all of a sudden you have the Chiefs offense that's starting to look a little bit more like a Chiefs offense. Yeah, sure, Travis Kelce's lost a step or two. He's still a useful player. And the Chiefs, I think, are a team that has really been beaten and bruised quite a bit. So what's nice is at least you have the last couple games where you have Mahomes, especially last week, throwing for 300 yards, right? How many 300-yard games has Patrick Mahomes had this year? Not many, right? Statistically speaking, this is not a great season for Patrick Mahomes, a guy who was prolific, throwing for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. Well, that guy hasn't been around recently because, unfortunately, they haven't given him enough weapons to work with. But all of a sudden, it's funny. You give a good quarterback some weapons to work with that are healthy, and next thing you know, all of a sudden the offense looks much better. So if Andy Reid thinks that he can figure this out with rest, competitive practice, proper game planning, I think it's a good idea. I would expect if it's 2 weeks off here for the Chiefs that they might come out flat in that first quarter, depending on who that matchup is. So watch that very carefully. It's something you can take advantage of, too, as a wagerer as well, where maybe you're looking in that first quarter and maybe you're looking at the Chiefs to be behind just because they might, or maybe, the under in that first quarter because you're getting an opportunity where maybe that team is just a little flat. We see that all the time. And then eventually you hope that they pick things up. But look, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City for a couple games. And that is a road that I think Andy Reid is very comfortable driving on.
The Broncos under Sean Payton control their own destiny, obviously. If they do win this game against a Chiefs team that really shouldn't care what ends up happening this week, then they're in. If not, things get interesting. The Dolphins, obviously, sitting at 8-8 behind the 9-7 Broncos, as are the Bengals at 8-8 as well. But, they need Miami to lose. They need the Chiefs to lose. And so, or rather the Broncos to lose, to, have their path. So it's not completely unrealistic, but it's not super realistic as well for Cincinnati. But if you're Sean Payton, how do you prepare for a Chiefs team that could decide to throw guys at you and, unbeknownst to you? Let's find out from the coach.
I don't know that it changes the game plan because the scheme's still the same. I think you have to approach it like you're seeing starters at these positions. Obviously, NFL rosters are it's not like you have a college roster, and I've been in this position before on the other side of it. So I think you're looking at the scheme relative to the game plan and then planning on seeing the player that you're watching on film. And if someone else is in that spot, then so be it.
What do you think? Broncos win this game? They're in? AFC decided?
Yeah, and I think they do. I think the Chiefs, you'll get a quarter just to get some guys some reps, right? Just to get a little game time feel and then pull them out. Or maybe you get a half of football. We'll see what goes on there. But I will say this, Sean Payton, a veteran coach, he said it there. He knows what he needs to do to get his team ready to play. And he also knows that he's taken this team that people were writing off that thought was done and that Russell Wilson experiment was an epic failure. And people are saying the game has passed Sean Payton by. Well, they're wrong because Sean Payton is looking at the playoffs right now with Bo Nix, a rookie, as a starting quarterback, and a team that does it have a star on offense? Because I don't see one. Cortland Sutton's a nice player. You got some nice talent around there, but at the end of the day, it's really Sean Payton that has willed this team, and I think he deserves a ton of credit for what the Broncos have done in 2024.
Anybody out there invest in the Bucks money line at halftime when I told you to, when it was like plus 250 or 300 odds? Milwaukee is up 109 to 108 in Indiana right now with 3 minutes to go. And Giannis, who had 4 points in the opening half, is up to 27. Giannis, just stay below 32, please, so I can...
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
It's you guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're talking about the AFC playoff picture here. We were just on the Broncos against the Chiefs. Well, now we've got another game that means nothing to one side other than pride, I suppose, and the other, a team that is really still got some questions at quarterback. That's Miami and the Jets. You thought when I said questions at quarterback, maybe I meant Aaron Rodgers. Sure, going forward, but not this week. I don't think. Maybe. We'll see. He did bench himself in the last game. But, Joe, this Miami team, this should be a winnable game. This should absolutely be a winnable game. But I'd feel a whole hell of a lot better if Tua Tagovailoa was under center, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're looking at Snoop Huntley again, who was – I mean, that game was disgusting against the Browns.
Yes.
Just an offensive showcase of how to not play football. So what do we get here in this one?
It was very simple. Mike McDaniel continues to beat teams that are bad and lose to teams that are good. Which one are the Jets? The Jets are a bad team. So at the end of the day, this one's really simple. The Jets find ways to lose that are just mind-numbing at times. And, Jet fans, I just want to tell you, you don't have to stay in this toxic relationship. People get divorced. People move. People say, you know what? I don't like this city anymore. I'm not going to live here anymore. People make decisions for the betterment of their lifestyle every single day, and you can do it too. You don't have to live this way as a Jets fan. Send a message. Move on. Take your fandom somewhere else where they appreciate it. You think it's till death do you part? Really?
I think if it's truly in your blood as a fan, then yeah, you're stuck. For better or worse, and maybe it turns for you one day. Maybe you're one of those people that, at your funeral and it says it in the obituary in the newspaper or online that, my grandfather never saw the Jets win a Super Bowl. I don't know, but I feel like
I think that's depressing.
Certain generations, man, and you know this, we're about the same age. You grew up like you rooted for a team. You rooted for the jersey. You rooted for the colors. Like our kids' generation, like my kids, their favorite teams are kind of put upon them. Like, hey, you grew up in this area. These are who dad roots for. These are who you root for. You can't make your own choices, right? But they have favorite players who are not necessarily on their favorite teams that they are going to follow and love as they move from city to city to city, just as I did with like Ken Griffey Jr. I wasn't a Mariners fan, but I was a Griffey fan, and I was a Griffey fan as when he was a White Sox and a Red and back on Seattle again. You know what I mean? So it is kind of, with your teams, it is kind of to death do you part. I think it is.
I don't know, man. I think at a certain point, again, the toxic relationships. The ownership is everything, though, too. It does trickle down. As a Mets fan, I can tell you, certainly the Wilpons to the Steve Cohen ownership, night and day. So ownership does matter so much in these circumstances, and the leadership does, filter down. Look at the Cowboys and what a mess they've been for so long. At one point, Jerry Jones, he had the right idea with the right coach. He was the revolutionary guy, right? You're trading Herschel Walker, getting all these picks. What are you doing? You're remaking this organization. Next thing you know, they're a dynasty. And then, of course, it's been a long time since they've been getting to Super Bowls, let alone winning them. So it is tough. And certainly ownership has a lot to do with it. And I don't know, Woody Johnson doesn't seem to be an owner who really has his finger on the pulse. But going back to this Jets game, even if it's Huntley, I have a hard time not buying that, the Miami Dolphins, again, statistically speaking, if you want to talk about something that has been almost something that's a lock every single week, just look at the record, look at who the Dolphins are playing. And if it's a winning record, you run away. And if it's a losing record, you run to the window. And that's been so simple. And it does beg the question here at a certain point, what are the Dolphins in 2025? Is McDaniel the guy that's going to be on the hot seat, in your opinion, next year? Because with Tua's health this year being a problem, you got to give somebody else in there who's a really established backup kind of guy. And, the fact that they didn't do this past year really hurt them, I would say, overall. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike McDaniel's a fraudulent head coach. This whole, boy genius thing we were led to believe when he got this job has shown quite the opposite here in his tenure as a head coach. For some, I don't even think Tua's that good. And yet, for some reason, the only time that he can find any sort of real success is with Tua quarterback. Despite Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert when he was awesome last year, you name it. Anyone else available to him at quarterback, the team sucks. And the offense it's worse than sucks. The offense is inept. And you dig into some of the numbers, I could pull some of them up on the other side. They're horrendous. But he's going to fake join us on the other side.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So we were just talking about the Dolphins, all the Mike McDaniel failures, absent Tua Tagovailoa, who we don't think is going to play here in Week 18 in a game that is obviously very important. Once again, a must-win, essentially, pretty damn close to it for this Dolphins team. So, Mike, nice of you to fake join us here. Who is your quarterback going to be this weekend?
What does that mean for this week? Well, honestly, I don't really know. There was a lot of optimism last week in my mind based upon the previous experience. So this week, I know one thing. Snoop will get more reps than Tua this week as we go through the week, and I have to be prepared for both guys to play because I don't really know exactly what it's going to look like this next Sunday. So that's really the optimism. We're kind of in a gray area now because of just how his body did not cooperate with my agenda.
Typical Mike McDaniel, obviously, and I feel like you need to be like the name Snoop sets a bar very high, right? I mean, you hear Snoop, you don't think Snoop Huntley, you think Snoop Dogg. So the fact that he stinks at football is just it depresses me, it saddens me a little bit. So look, we'll see how this ultimately shakes out between, again, Broncos, Dolphins, Bengals in terms of that final spot. Let's look at the odds, though, in terms of what investment makes the most sense here on these games going into Week 18, and who we should invest in, obviously, and get that final AFC playoff spot. I'll pull them up right here, and we will, let's see.
Well, first one we've got here is Cincinnati, right here. Pittsburgh, I see. So we can talk about this one.
Yeah. Well, that's true. We can. I want to see like the. Yeah, I'm looking at season awards.
The Cincinnati
and
Pittsburgh one to me, while you're looking for that, I would say this: the Cincinnati Pittsburgh
I've got
it?
playoffs.
Okay,
all right. So let me give you this quickly. So Denver, the overwhelming favorite, -700. Okay. If you think they falter, +470. Miami, if you see value in that, which means you believe obviously Denver's going to lose, +760. And then Cincinnati, that's your one right there, +1600 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and it is going to really be in the hands of the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, like I said, have zero ability to want to see Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. They do not want to see that. That is not something. They're good. It's fine. Cincinnati, I think, is going to beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's offense has fallen apart here at the end. Pittsburgh with Pickens and without Pickens, you went from a top 5 offense to a bottom 3 offense. I mean, it's been drastic. So, we'll see what happens here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they are a team also that seemed to have a nice little run there with Russell Wilson. But as I kept saying in those first few games when everybody was taking these victory laps with Russell Wilson, I was like, listen, these 50-50 balls he keeps throwing up there, it ain't always going to come down the right way. It is not good. And I kept thinking that Justin Fields gives you a chance to not only do what Russell Wilson's doing, win you games, get to 10 wins. I think Justin Fields could have got you to 10 wins. And maybe Justin Fields could have gotten the confidence to be your quarterback of the future because he's 26 years old. Instead, why you went with a 35-year-old quarterback at this stage in his career is just, I don't understand. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're not winning a Super Bowl with this roster. It's not happening. So you might as well figure out if you have the quarterback of the future. Instead, now you have a situation where you've shown Fields to everybody. I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at Justin Fields saying, okay, you put him in the right environment with the right pieces, he might be pretty decent. The way I'm going about this with the Dolphins and the Jets is I'm just going to take the under. You can get 40.5 in some markets right now. If Huntley does play quarterback, and I anticipate him doing that, and considering the, disintegration of Aaron Rodgers, which sounds like a progressive rock band from the late 80s potentially in some college radio station, that maybe, just maybe, it's all going to fall apart here at the end. Pit. At the pit, there you go. At the pit, the disintegration of Aaron Rodgers. But look, the Jet fans are going to be out there to boo Aaron Rodgers and boo whoever is out there. It's going to be a very negative environment. I don't see Aaron Rodgers walking off in triumph in this contest. Do you? And the Dolphins continue to show you they can handle their business against bad teams. The Jets find ways to lose. The Jets are done. The Jets have plane tickets booked, and these guys are done. They don't want to play anymore for whatever's left of this coach and whatever's left of this quarterback. So, yeah, it feels like the Denver Broncos are by default. I think Joe Burrow's going to make it interesting, though. I think Joe Burrow's going to win this football game on Saturday and put some pressure. And I think the Chiefs are going to say, okay, go ahead, Denver. It's all yours. Go beat the hell out of us, and we'll see you in the playoffs. Maybe, just maybe. What do you think? Do you think that maybe there's a world where the Kansas City Chiefs decide that they're going to play everybody and then beat the Denver Broncos, some sort of divisional pride?
No, absolutely not. I will be shocked. Mahomes shouldn't even be in uniform for the game. He should be the emergency backup, street clothes. He won't be. I mean, he'll be on the sideline, but no, I don't think these guys are going to play. I don't think they care. They take a second loss. They take a second loss. Also, they might be good enough, even with Carson Wentz, to still beat the Broncos, because I don't think that highly of the Broncos, quite frankly. But, going back to the Steelers and Ravens, again, this stuff is not decided, right? I mean, Baltimore 11-5 has clinched a playoff spot. Same deal for Pittsburgh at 10-6. But both these teams are trying to clinch the division. And Mike Tomlin will tell you, I think it was Tomlin, right? Was it Harbaugh? John Harbaugh will tell you for Baltimore, this is important to the Ravens.
Very significant. I mean, it's definitely a goal. It's one of our 5 main goals is to win the division from a team perspective, and it's a big deal. It's a tough division. We respect these teams tremendously. I think you saw the games this last weekend. You saw the Bengals. They're still in it. It tells you a lot about the character of the teams in this division. So we know we're going to have a tough game. We always do. We always do against every team in the division. The Browns, we always have these knockdown dragouts with. So, but if we could get it done, it would be a great accomplishment.
Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Chargers have all clinched playoff spots. And again, as we have mentioned many times, the final one will go to the Broncos, Dolphins, or Bengals. Which team has the best chance of that whole group of tripping up Kansas City and preventing KC from making a third straight Super Bowl?
I think it's still the Bills of all the AFC teams that has the best chance, because Josh Allen, does take us personally, and they had that game a few years ago too, where it was back and forth. You remember that game? They just did not quit, went to the overtime there, and Josh Allen has beaten them in Kansas City. So is Joe Burrow. So there's a finite number of those people. I know the Baltimore Ravens defense since the bye has played a little better, but I want to take that with a grain of salt, because the Steelers offense is unimpressive, and then they played the Giants off the bye. So I think people are putting a little bit too much stock into that. The thing you want to be able to do at this stage in the game is run the football, play defense. And when you're looking at the playoff picture right now, it feels like the Chiefs are in a good place to do that. The Bills defense gives up far too many points against good offenses. I mean, they went back-to-back weeks there with the Rams and the Lions where they gave up 90 points almost, Adam. I mean, that is an incredible amount of points to be giving up at this stage. So I don't know. At a certain point here, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, the Chiefs are still the prohibitive favorites. I think that they would be underdogs against the Bills at home, and I think Mahomes will take that personally. I don't think the Chargers are a team that can beat the Chiefs in their building. I am very suspect that the Ravens can beat the Chiefs in that building with the way that defense plays. I'm not enamored of the Bills defense, but Josh Allen does have that weird magic, and I think a lot of it's mental, where you got to go in here and can you beat the Chiefs? Can you put that team on your back? Joe Burrow can do it. Josh Allen can do it. I'm just not sure if Lamar can do it quite yet, because we haven't seen him really do that. But maybe, just maybe, being the underdog is what Lamar needs. Do you think that might be the secret sauce for the Ravens?
I would trust the Ravens more if I hadn't seen them in the playoffs last year against the Chiefs completely abandon their game plan and all the things they do well and not run the ball and turn Lamar into a passer. Don't.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back here with Joe, and I am Adam. We're in for Scotty. It's Ferrall Coast to Coast. Now, we've been doing a lot with the AFC, obviously. Joe, let's go over to the NFC and take a look here. Now, most of this has been decided with respect to who is in the playoffs, not necessarily the seeding, but we know Lions, the Eagles, the Rams, the Vikings, Commanders, Packers, all have clinched their spots. The Seahawks getting eliminated last time out with that Commanders win. And now you have basically comes down to not a wild card team, but who is going to win the NFC South. It's either the Bucs, led by Baker Mayfield, 9-7, or of course the Falcons, led now by Michael Penix Jr. and really Bijan Robinson and Drake London at 8-8. And so just to get some coaching perspectives on these two teams, let's start with Todd Bowles. His guy's mindset, he's not concerned with the pressures of a must-win game.
Just got to do the little things right. They shouldn't respond any other way than they responded yesterday. We got to do the little things right. It's a division opponent. We know it's going to be a dogfight. We had to win one last year. The last game of the season, it was 9-0. It was a dogfight with Carolina, so we expect the same thing.
As for the Falcons, they're going to need that Bucs loss against the Saints, however unrealistic that is, and you got to take care of business against the Panthers to get the job done. So, Raheem Morris, what say you?
I don't think you can, Zach. I think you can only handle what you can handle, control what you can control. So I think as a professional and as what I owe to Arthur Blank and this organization and our fan base is to go out there and be completely locked into what we're doing, trying to win versus the Carolina Panthers.
How do you see it playing out, Joe? Who wins?
No, I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's not close. They're 13.5-point favorites. So normally that would make me a little shaky because I love Baker Mayfield as an underdog too. Historically, that's the guy you want to bet. He loves being the guy that has the chip on his shoulder that you don't think can win. Sometimes in these big spots as the favorite, he hasn't been so good. However, there's nothing left of the New Orleans Saints. It's the last week of the season. The Saints have shown some pride there with the Riz. I get it. He's had them giving as much as they possibly could give. There's just no one left to give it at this point. No quarterback, no running backs, no wide receivers. There's just nothing left on this offense anymore. Taysom Hill gets hurt. Olave gets hurt. They're all gone. Derek Carr. So at this point, it's just whatever's left of the Saints here. And the fact that it's also, on the road in Tampa. Tampa should handle their business very comfortably. And I think it's a credit to Baker Mayfield as well. We talked earlier about guys that should get some MVP love. How about Baker Mayfield? How about a guy that really has played with a mediocre defense, had Chris Godwin get hurt for the year, had Mike Evans miss time, had, a bunch of guys playing running back. Like Bucky Irving's played some nice football, but was Bucky Irving a star on anybody's radar going into the season? No, it's Baker Mayfield. So we've dubbed him the Intercontinental MVP. It's kind of that worker title. It's that one right below in the wrestling industry there. So he's not the heavyweight champ. He's the Intercontinental MVP. And I think Baker Mayfield deserves a little bit more love. And this is now 2 years in a row where it's not a good division, but the Tampa Bay Bucs and Baker Mayfield come away victorious. And it begs the question, too, do you think that they held on too long with Kirk Cousins? Should they have made the switch to Michael Penix sooner? Do you think it would have made a difference for the Falcons?
So hindsight's 2020, because I was one of the people who felt at the time it was kind of foolish to go to Penix in the first place. Cousins had not performed well. I think, one touchdown and 9 interceptions over his 5-game stretch that led into the benching. But at the same point, you're still in a playoff race. He's a known commodity. He's been in these runs before, and Penix had never started a game in the NFL. Now, I don't know how you could look at the last 2 weeks. Now, the first one wasn't as much on Penix, obviously, as the defense, but still, they win that game going away. And this last time out fell short, but that wasn't on Penix. I mean, that was, he had some unbelievable plays down the stretch of that game against the Commanders. And that was a game Atlanta absolutely could have come up with the upset win. And so Penix has shown some things. I mean, this whole rookie class, as far as quarterbacks, has shown some things, at least here in year one. So, I wouldn't have said it at the time, but looking back now, you can certainly make a case that Penix should have gotten an opportunity sooner.
Yeah, I think it was a problem with the schedule, too, because coming out of the bye, they had the Chargers, right? A team where you're like, okay, it's a really good football team. Do we want to entrust that to a rookie? And right after that, you had that game at Minnesota. And to take that away from Kirk Cousins seemed like a really difficult thing to do at the time. So I think the window was probably where most teams like to make that transition to a young quarterback after their bye week. But to throw a young quarterback against the Chargers was probably tough. And then to not have Kirk Cousins be there for that moment in Minnesota, also tough. Now, maybe you get caught up in narratives too much and not enough about the play of what's going on. But that schedule, I think, unfortunately, just set them in a bad spot. That being said, Kirk Cousins is probably going to be somewhere next year. Is there a landing spot that you think that Kirk Cousins would fit right where, you might laugh at it, but if you drop Kirk Cousins with a good head coach of the New York Jets, that could be a situation you turn around rather quickly if indeed you think Kirk Cousins has more left in the tank than Aaron Rodgers had.
Don't they already have an aging quarterback? Where's Rodgers?
With an Achilles injury? I guess
Yeah.
they did. Didn't work out the first time, so don't do it a second time.
Right. I mean, maybe he retires.
What about as a
and
backup
you were
for the
joking
Dolphins,
earlier,
Adam?
starts a podcast. Oh, God. You think Rodgers is never going to be a backup anywhere. I mean, that's his
what
ego.
About Cousins? What about Cousins?
I was going to say, like Rodgers, it starts somewhere or retire. There's no chance. Cousins, I could see accepting that type of humility somewhere just to stay in the league and have an opportunity if a guy goes down, that type of thing. Or he kind of goes the Joe Flacco route. Now, Flacco was a backup before this, but, kind of pseudo retires, but like, hey, I'll be on my couch. Call me if a guy gets hurt and you need somebody, and then sort of swoops back in at that point in time. So I think that anything is on the table for Cousins, but I can't imagine he wants to go down the way it ended in Atlanta anyway. I mean, it was awful. Plus, in fairness to him, it was a serious injury, obviously, that he suffered. And a lot of the time it does take guys a full year to recover from that and regroup and sort of be themselves again. I mean, that's more of an explosivity thing for running backs or tight ends, wide receivers, all that, than it is for quarterbacks, at least non-mobile ones. And he's as statuesque as it gets at this point. But he could be better next year. That's all I'm saying. We'll come back. More college football on the other side.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're hanging with you on Ferrall Coast to Coast. Just a few more minutes to help, move things along for you here on this New Year's Eve. And don't forget, I know there's programming coming up even beforehand, but Sports Rage will be at 7:30 to be live opposite the Fiesta Bowl and sweating things out for you. And we'll talk more about that game in a minute. But some of the games that are happening right now, we got entertainment anyway. Over in the Citrus Bowl, early fourth quarter, it is Illinois with the ball, trailing 17-14, but 2nd and 4 at the South Carolina 21. So Illinois looking for a 10th win and potentially some points on the way here if they don't screw it up. Meanwhile, Baylor and LSU, that's mid-third quarter, and just got a touchdown out of Baylor, so it is 34-23, extra point pending. LSU is leading this game, but of course the marquee matchup of the night, and there it is, so 10-point game now. Marquee matchup of the night, as we know, Joe, is Penn State, Boise State, 7:30 Eastern start. We'll see if it actually kicks off on time. But it is the first of the college football playoff quarterfinal games happening tonight. Technically, again, the Fiesta Bowl. All these games, they've got bowls attached to them for the sponsors and notoriety and all of that good stuff. Now, there's some star power in this game. We know that, like the Heisman finalist. Didn't win it. Travis Hunter did, but Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. And he talks here about going up against a defense as stout as Penn State's.
They got some really good players. Their front seven is elite. Great linebackers, great D-line. They do a lot. Blitzes, pressures. Moving the D-line, stunts, and all that. And they're a single high team. So we know for sure we're gonna get some 7-8 man surfaces. I mean that's just natural from all the defenses we've seen, but we're gonna have to play a great game, stay ahead of the chains. They're one of the best teams on 3rd and long, so we want to stay out of those situations.
Jeanty needs 132 yards to pass Barry Sanders for the most rushing yards in an FBS college football season. What are your expectations for tonight?
Look, the 12.5 is a lot of points. I gotta say, like that's one where it makes me a little uncomfortable here. I will still lean on that side towards the Penn State side of the minus 12.5. The 54.5 too is that total is another large number. So if you think that Boise State's going to be outclassed here, to be honest, you might want to potentially shade the under here. And you might also be affected potentially by the game script here for Genty. So if they do fall behind really early in this game, that might be a bad thing. I know there's a lot of spots where you could bet the special here for Genty to get this record. So if they do fall behind 14-0 or something like that in that first quarter, you could see maybe them having to throw the football a little bit more than they want to and get away from that game plan. I don't think they should. I think they should stick to what works for them, which is running the ball with Ashton Genty and letting him eventually make that big play, that big breakaway run, because that's been the secret sauce for Boise State all year. But at the same time, it is something to watch very closely and maybe even be live betting it too, because there is a scenario here where Penn State jumps on them early and just is outclassing them top to bottom as a roster. And that's what we've seen so far in this college playoff in the early going. You know, some of these SEC rosters and some of these other rosters, just a different animal than what we're used to. And I think that's something even with Notre Dame that you saw, right? So I think that at a certain point, you have to take that into account. And clearly the line is 2. I saw 11.5 is one we had. Some spots even have it at 12.5 now. Where are you at with this one? Do you think that this is a comfortable win here for Penn State? Because that's what Vegas is telling you.
No, I took Boise State with the points, and I mentioned to Gabe earlier, I would consider sprinkling the money line. I think Boise State is live to win this game. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen without a stellar, 150, 200-yard total yard performance out of Genty. He needs to be every bit the Heisman finalist that he was and, set that record and all of that stuff. If he is underwhelming in any way, I certainly don't think Boise State, never mind wins this game, probably loses by 3 scores. But I think this is absolutely an opportunity for Boise State to win in advance. I'm not quite right or wrong, maybe wrong. I'm not quite as high on Penn State as it feels like everybody else is. But listen, we're running short on time. Most important question I'm going to ask you all show, what are you doing tonight to ring in the new year?
Going out with some friends, which is nice. Don't have my kids tonight, which is fun. So great spending the holidays with them. But it's nice to have some adult time. It was nice to have some sports adult time with you too, Adam. So happy New Year to you and our entire crew here at SportsGrid. They do a tremendous job behind the scenes.
And to you, our thanks to all of our guests, obviously, Mafia, everybody behind the scenes. Scotty will be back with you in no time, don't worry. But hopefully you enjoyed the show in the meantime. Great working with Joe Pisapia for the first time. I am Adam Kaufman, back with you tomorrow, New Year's Day, to bring in 2025. I'll see you at 1 Eastern. Enjoy the game tonight. Happy New Year.
Flicker. A new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah. 8 nights of winning insights.
They may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover. So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this bet than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting out. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet. Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans, bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.